Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new here. So today is another Teacher Talk Tuesday, but instead of a little talk, a little discussion, as we usually do on a Tuesday on this channel, I thought we would do a Teacher Tip Tuesday instead. And I actually started describing and explaining this tip in another TTT video, and then that went way over half an hour, and that is definitely my cut-off point for these videos. You guys know, if you're not new to my channel, that I do like longer videos, chatty videos, but I know a lot of people don't have time. I know, especially if you're a teacher, you are a busy human being. So I wanted to keep this quite short and sweet, and I also wanted to say I'm sorry if you're already doing this and this video doesn't really bring you much value, but it is something that really changed my workload massively between my first year of teaching my NQT year and my RQT year. So I thought I would make a little video about it on my channel, and yeah, click thumbs up if you enjoy my Teacher Talk videos, and if you haven't subscribed already, you guys know what to do. Hit subscribe before we get started. Okay, so this tip is all about marking, and in my first year I found that on top of all the other overwhelming things that come along with becoming an NQT, you know, dealing with parents for the first time, getting to grips with the curriculum that you're teaching, getting to grips with the topics you're teaching, getting into our workflow, I found one of the biggest things that slowed me down in my week to week in terms of workload was my marking workload. And that's because every single day I would sit there after school and I would go through their literacy books, I would go through their maths books, and I'd go through probably their topic books, and realistically I'd only get maybe 1.5 of those done, especially because my class, to be honest, I was quite lucky. I only had like 24 children in my first class, but even then as an NQT that still feels like a lot. If you times 24 by 2, that's 48, and then if you add another 24 on top of that, that's too much. And I would end up taking home a set of books every single night to mark, and whilst this is necessary sometimes, it definitely does not need to be the way you do things, and there's lots of tips and tricks that you pick up the more you teach. I remember when I was thinking about going into teaching, I was speaking to somebody who is a head teacher, and she said as you go along your teaching career and your teaching journey, you pick up little tips and tricks and little hacks and shortcuts to make your workload easier. Now, does that mean that the workload is manageable as much as it should be? No, I'm sorry, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything for you. I got a comment on my last video saying, I feel like you're quite negative and you couldn't handle the workload. maybe I couldn't handle the workload, or maybe I just say it how it is. I'm never going to sugarcoat my experience. I'm just going to be real with you, but at the same time I want to help you guys with my experience that I've had, because I still am teaching, but not to the same capacity that I was, but I still do have now an ongoing workload in terms of marking, because I've got several different classes that I'm teaching on a weekly basis. So the tip in this particular instance is actually a maths tip. You could apply this to other subjects for sure, but this really worked well with my maths lessons, and obviously maths is something you teach every single day as a primary teacher. Previously, like I said, I would wait till the end of the day and then I would go through all their books and I would put them in piles, and there'd be a pile of children who I need to speak to the next day, and a pile of children who I'm going to work with, and you know, a pile of children who really got it, who I definitely need to make sure I give them an extension sheet. And it wasn't just the marking, it was like the after the marking and the planning for the next day, and it does just take up a lot of time for no good reason. So what I figured out was that my lessons needed to be slightly shorter. I would give them maybe a very, very short plenary at the end of the lesson, but I would give myself a good sort of 10 minutes. The beginning of these 10 minutes that I set aside every single day was for marking. So I trained my class to, I didn't mind and my school didn't mind for us to let them use coloured pencils to mark, but obviously it depends on your school, your policy. Some schools have like a purple marking pen or a green marking pen. Whatever the policy is, the children were really, really receptive to this actually. That it was like, right, okay everyone, time to mark, and they would literally pick up a colouring pencil and like they'd be looking at me, and the children, the table was ready first, we get table points. Basically, the reason why marking as a class works so well is because one, it cuts out the need for you to go through every single book every single day. The children can go through and mark their own work independently, and two, the assessment there is key, because what happens when you're marking every single day and giving it back to them is all they're doing is looking at the bottom at their score, and that's all they really care about. And if you think about yourself, you know, when you were a child, when you were a teenager and you were at school, very often I remember, especially my history teacher was my favourite teacher, saying, I know you're all going to go to the back and look at your mark, but I want you to look at your feedback. And obviously, like, secondary school is a totally different ballgame, but in primary school, especially in maths where the answer is either right or wrong, they were able to see, all right, I got that right, yeah, that's great, oh, didn't get that right. And they are able to then kind of take more responsibility for their own learning, and they're also taking off a bit of a task for you at the end of the day. And then to make my life a step easier, after we'd marked all the work and they'd give themselves a score, I would always ask them to self-assess. So I'd usually ask them to physically self-assess with their thumbs, so thumbs up, wobbly thumbs or thumbs down. And I would also ask them to do a little smiley face, we practiced this a few times, on how they felt that lesson went. And then the final step is I would have stations in my classroom for if they felt like they went totally well, big thumbs up, they understood it, they were really good with it, they could put their books into the finished pile. If they weren't too sure, there was a wobbly pile, and if they had no idea, there was a separate pile for like red. I really need help, I did not understand this lesson at all. And the thing is, as a teacher, especially in maths, I found that I would always work with a small group, but also you would stand up and like take a couple of minutes across the lesson, keep an eye on what the children are doing, how they're getting on, and then that way you can get a good grasp of who's really getting the work and who probably needs more support. And then the ones who are on that red pile, they're obviously your focus children for the next day, and the ones who are on the orange pile, usually it's like they've got some of it wrong, some of it right, and you can set them some early morning task, and the red pile as well, for the next day, just to sort of get their brains into that gear of doing that topic, whatever it is, and you can work with them, you know, as everyone's coming in for a soft start. So that tip, I know it sounds so simple, and it really is so simple, but just training the children 10 minutes at the end of the lesson, we're going to mark together. It genuinely saved me so much time, but also made me feel like I was being a better teacher, because the children were able to assess themselves, so they were able to straight away get their results back. And sometimes, you know what, the lesson would overrun, we would be in a new topic and, you know, we'd be really deep into it, and suddenly it's the next lesson or it's break time. So then on those occasions, fine, like either we mark at the start of the next lesson, or I sometimes would mark all their books. But on the whole, my second year of teaching in terms of marking was so much easier just because of this. And I genuinely feel that my second class were able to have a much stronger idea of like how they were personally doing within maths, what topics they found really easy, what topics they were struggling with, etc. So it just worked as a win-win on both sides for me and my class, and I feel like every single primary teacher, especially if you're an NQT, should know that and have the confidence to do something like that, unless it's totally against your school policy, which of course, like, you guys need to check out your own school policy. Every single primary school has a different marking policy, so don't hold me to that. But yeah, on the whole, I really recommend this method, because I feel like it just makes the whole teaching and marking workload so much easier. I hope you guys found that tip helpful. If you have any other marking tips, leave them down below for fellow teachers, and I will see you next Tuesday for another teaching video, or on a Thursday or a Sunday if you want to stick around for the rest. Take care guys, bye!